I'm Dr. Behzad Bernous, though many people know me simply as Dr. B or Dr. B. Today on Astana, we welcome Dr. Tara Rasta, a healer who brings science, spirituality, and the soul. She's the founder of Rasta Wellness and Chiropractic, where transformation is not about fixing what's broken, but awakening what is whole. With her roots in neuroscience and network Spinal, Dr. Tara guides people to release old patterns, reclaim their energy, and align with their life's true purpose. So, welcome, Dr. Tara. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself so our viewers and listeners get a better understanding of what you do and how you're contributing to help the community?
I want to tell you a story because I
Wow.
think that's a lot more exciting. So I feel that my journey started when there was this one day I'm talking to God as I'm driving on the freeway. And that's because I got accepted to dental school. And I had just turned in all my transcripts to USC. And I had recently watched a dental gum extraction the day before where I almost vomited because there was a lot of blood. And I'm driving back from USC and I'm just bawling in my car, crying, and I'm talking to God and I'm telling God, I'm like, I don't want to be a dentist. I don't want to have my face in people's mouth. This job looks absolutely disgusting to me. And here I am going to dental school, investing a lot of money. And I'm asking God, I'm like, you got to show me the way now. I need you to show me the way now because I'm going to start school in a few months and I'm feeling lost. And as I'm just talking to God and crying, the next thing you know, boom, there is a car accident.
Wow.
I'm involved in a car accident. It wasn't my fault.
Oh, you were involved in it.
I was involved in a track of car accidents. Somebody hit
Oh,
the person behind me,
wow.
then that person hit me, and then I hit the person in front of me, and that person hit somebody else. It was a train of car crash. And I'm like in the middle of it. And I'm like, God, what are you doing to me? So then, we get out of the car, the police comes, nothing really happens, but I end up having to go to a chiropractor. And I have to tell you that during this time, I just graduated UCLA, and during my time at UCLA, I did neuroscience and psychobiology. But, I was at the health center a lot more than I was in class because I was constantly sick, either with a headache, I had constant migraines, I had a lot of UTI infections. I was just sick, and that was part of the reason that I didn't go to medical school. That was my original plan. I wanted to go to medical school. But after being sick and feeling like I was in the best healthcare system in the world and not feeling well, I thought, I want to change route and go to dental school because I had lost my interest in medicine because of how sick I was. So here I was going to a chiropractor, and back then I didn't really believe in chiropractic. I really truly, to be completely authentic, I really went because I wanted to make sure that the insurance pays and I get to fix my car. But the first experience at the chiropractic office was very interesting because as soon as I walk in, the vibe is very different than a medical doctor. There's all these books about mysticism and consciousness and healing and soul. And this is the first time
I guess you went to an interesting chiropractor, though. Not all of them are
Not
like
all
that,
of them
as far as
are.
I know.
Yeah. I guess you always end up at the right place. So Dr. Nazila Jalali was my first chiropractor. And, after a few sessions, I noticed that I felt a lot different. And there was this day that I was cleaning my closet and I was cleaning my purses, and I noticed that inside every purse there was an Excedrin. And that's because I used to have a lot of migraines, and I would take a lot of Excedrin every day for my migraines. And I just noticed, I'm like, wow, I haven't taken Excedrin in weeks now. And the only thing that's different is that I'm going to a chiropractor. So all of a sudden I had this download, oh, maybe chiropractic school could be something for me because it seems a lot more aligned. It's very gentle. It's very intimate. You get to touch someone's neck and someone's body, and it feels very sacred. And as I'm thinking, I get a phone call from a friend that we only talk once in a while, and he calls me and he says, Tara, I'm in chiropractic school, and I just thought about you because I feel that this work would be very aligned for you with your personality and just the way you are. Is it okay if I give your number to a counselor? And it just felt in that moment that maybe all things have aligned, and all my prayers in the car have been answered
Answered.
to go to chiropractic
So
school.
you saw this, and we can call it a very synchronistic series of events
Yes.
that guided you, maybe gently, not as gentle as maybe we hoped it was an accident, but really showed you the way that, how you could be finding yourself. So I'm assuming, based on what you told me about this story and you asking God for showing you the way, you had like prior connection with spirituality, connection with God. Do you want to share a little bit of that?
Probably not as strong as it is now, but definitely there was always a connection. Back in Iran, I was in Iran until age of 14.
Mm-hmm.
And, my dad was a political activist. He was in prison for 10 years during the revolution.
Wow.
And he was, he's somewhat an atheist, agnostic person. He told me that I get to choose my God and my belief system. So back then, what really resonated with me was going to church. So I was going to church in Iran. And I would always ask Christ to remove the Islamic Republic. But something happened where within a year, it happened really, really fast. It felt like God just removed me from Iran and put me into the U.S.
Wow.
because we never had plans to come to the U.S. So, my belief systems, I've been to temples and I've been to churches and I've studied, Buddhist religion.
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself very mystic, but I don't really necessarily feel that I'm connected to
Subscribe to
one
any-
specific religion,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely respect all, and I see that there is a common thread. So, yeah, I definitely feel like I have a lot of connection to my own divinity and also to the divine itself.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much, by the way, for sharing this beautiful story. And what I see is very interesting about you is that I have been to chiropractic offices and I've received, adjustments and things like that. But your approach is totally different. Yours is so spiritual, it's so holistic compared to maybe mainstream. Would you mind telling us a little bit about the specific of your approach, which is so interesting?
This is another story. So once I graduated from chiropractic school and I was working at a chiropractor's office, I was not happy about adjusting people because I felt like it was it felt robotic in a sense that, everybody just comes in, we find what is called subluxation, which is when the bone is out of alignment, and we adjust them. And when I went to school, my whole goal was to find something very transformative. It felt, something very sacred and transformative. And there was this one time that I came home and I was very disappointed with the work that I was doing. And I told my roommate that, I feel like I went to chiropractic school and I still don't feel aligned with what I'm doing.
That's beautiful what you say. I went to chiropractic, but I'm still not aligned with what I'm supposed to be
I didn't
doing.
feel aligned. And she said, why don't you look into network spinal? And it was a very experience with network spinal because there was, in chiropractic school, we got credits for going to different classes of different techniques.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was lunchtime, we had a biochemistry exam coming up, and I went to a network seminar. It was like an hour seminar. And I just sat in the back to get my credit. And I was studying for biochem. And the teacher is explaining, I'm not really listening. And all of a sudden he says, you in the back, and I'm not paying attention. And then my teachers are like, he's talking to you. And I'm like, me? And then he's like, yes, you with the red shirt. And I'm like, okay. So I guess maybe he put me on the spot because he noticed that I wasn't listening. He said, do you mind coming on the table so we can activate your spine? That's what he said. And I said, activate my spine? Sure. Mm-hmm. So I get on the table and he makes the most gentle touches. I can barely feel it. And the first thing that happened is that I hear my heartbeat in a way that I have never heard my heartbeat before. I was able to hear somehow my heartbeat. And then all of a sudden I felt like there was something inside of me starting in my sacrum, and then it just bubbled up and it came out. But the way it came out was like with a huge cry. Probably a cry that I've had when I was a toddler.
Wow.
Because it was
just those simple,
just
very
one
light
or two touch. One in my sacrum, one in my spine. My spine started to move, but it was a movement that was also happening with crying, and the cry was uncontrollable.
And you couldn't relate to why this is happening?
I had no idea at the time. It was just coming out, bursting out of me. And to be honest, it felt very uncomfortable because it was a class of 300 people.
Wow.
Or less or more, but in that many, everyone's around me. And my body is moving. I am crying.
And you couldn't control this movement, or did it feel good?
In the moment, it didn't because I wasn't expecting it. So in a moment, I wish that there was some kind of consent form that I could at least, understand what's happening. Because, when people come to me, I take my time. Everybody gets a phone interview to really explain the work that we do so that they're not, but for me, it was very unexpected. And to be honest, I never wanted to look at those people or experience that technique because, first of all, I just thought it was because I had a biochem exam the next day and I was just stressed. And that's what happened.
But that was not the whole story, was it?
That was not the whole story, no.
Okay.
And then, I remember just leaving, like getting up and just leaving. And I left my laptop and my computer and everything in the class because I was just so distraught about, what happened in there. So when my friend told me that, hey, you should look into network spinal, I was like, no, I'm not looking at that because, first of all, it doesn't look right. It looks like exorcism because of the way the spine is moving.
Yeah,
Right.
I've seen a lot of your videos. I follow you on Instagram and I'm amazed at the way that people move. And at times, I don't lie, but it looks like kind of Kundalini yoga, that approach that they say that the hidden snake at the base of the spine through the work of Kundalini rises up to the head. So, and I'm just like, is this really happening, or is this you do not tell them to make those moves,
No,
right?
no.
People just automatically make those moves.
Right, right. Yeah, so that was my experience. And then when my friend said, look into network spinal, I didn't want it to really look at it. But I was reading a book called Everything You Need to Know to Feel Good by Dr. Candace Pert. She's a neuroimmunologist. I've always been interested in neuroscience. And literally, I go to read my book, and the next chapter, she's talking about network spinal because she had an experience. And then she starts to describe the work in a way that I can understand. Neurologically, what happens when these light touches are contacted with your spine, what is getting released, why is the nervous system, doing such a thing.
And can you put it into like a layman words to people to understand what really happening?
Yeah, so we have something called the central pattern generator. And the central pattern generator is responsible for rhythmic movement. So when you're walking, you're not really thinking about walking.
Yes.
Because the central pattern generator in the spine is already creating those rhythmic movements. So what happens in network spinal, because of those specific touches, even though they're very light, they're happening at very specific point where the meninges has a lot of receptors. That is, when you're touching that in the right way, it basically signals the brain and the brain creates a release. And it activates the central pattern generator. So we're tapping into the system that already exists within the nervous system. And that is, basically creates the movement. The movements are voluntarily. So if you ever want to stop it while you're on the table, you can. But it almost comes in as an urge.
Is it like autocorrection kind of putting yourself?
Yeah, so the spine, the central pattern generator creates this signaling that the spine and the nervous system starts to reorganize itself. So Dr. Donnie Epstein actually calls this type of healing a reorganizational healing.
Reorganizational healing, okay.
Because the nervous system starts to create these strategies that are causing your body to undulate, your spine to undulate and to move. But it doesn't happen for everybody at the first visit. And that's because, first of all, we have a lot of defense physiology that we have to move through. So first we have to kind of get the defense physiology at a lower point. So if somebody is at a deep state of sympathetic, first we have to help them get into that state of parasympathetic for the nervous system to feel safe enough to tap into the central pattern generator.
So in a way, it depends on the state of mind and maybe trauma?
Not the state of mind, the state of body. Because it really, because your mind, in your mind, you could feel like you're very relaxed. But when we measure your heart rate variability, which is your heart coherence, and it shows whether you're in the state of fight or flight or rest and digest, we can see you're far into the state of fight or flight.
So if I understand you correctly, then, there are a lot of, data out there that talking about the body keeps the score, that the trauma being stored in the body that has been, shown and is being practiced in a way, that the psychosomatic aspects of issues. So, but what you're saying, if I understand you correctly, is that your mind could totally be relaxed so there is a disconnection between mind and body. Is that what we're saying?
there could be a disconnection, and my job is to create the connection and create the coherence between the two.
And why this disconnection happens to begin with?
Because it's a defense mechanism for us to be able to survive when we've been in a survival mode for a long time. So the body is so smart, right? So you could be in the state of fight or flight, but it could become your default to the point that you're so adaptable that you're not feeling the pain, you're not feeling your traumas. In your mind, you're calm. You've trained yourself to be calm in your mind, but your body's still holding.
So then I'm trying to bridge the gap between what I understand psychology and what you're saying. So from psychodynamic perspective, what you're saying, we would say that so the body is representation of the unconscious aspect. We call it unconscious in a sense, because if we have no subconscious is something we can access it consciously. So the way you're explaining to me, I would say is a deep unconscious that is so being repressed by the defense mechanism in our psyche that ego or the consciousness has no clue what's happening below the surface. So then what you're saying is that tapping into connecting the conscious and unconscious, so things that are deep within the body, hence is accessible, becomes accessible to the consciousness.
Correct.
Right?
I
so
see the body as a subconscious mind. I would not say super unconscious, because you can almost, if you create a little bit of awareness, you're going to be able to sense it.
Okay.
So think about your posture.
Mm-hmm.
Our posture is a representation of how we're feeling and the life that we're living.
Mm-hmm.
So, the way your neck is sitting in your body, the way your shoulders are rounding, the way your hips are feeling. So by accessing this intelligence of the body and creating awareness, you're able to sense it. Now, that doesn't mean that there are not unconscious things that we are not going to access. But in the beginning, it's almost in the play.
Gradually, you go layer by layer.
Layer by layer.
I hear you.
And the defense physiology that I'm talking about is not necessarily the defense mechanism in the mind that you know of. It's the defense physiology that we see it in the nervous system and structurally in the musculoskeletal system.
Okay, so what you're proposing is that there is a different defense mechanism in place in the body as well as what we talk about in the psyche.
Exactly.
And are these two in any way related?
They're interrelated, and they're a little bit different, because you could still create a change in the defense physiology of the body, and somebody still could have their defense mechanisms of the mind.
Yes. So it's very interesting. The way that we, in Astana, we look at things is we really appreciate all the knowledge that we get. We are really interested in knowing and understanding the scientific approaches, and we also look into the collective aspect of the psyche and the consciousness. So what you're telling me is fascinating, and I'm trying to understand it because it's new for me. I'm not lying, it's not easy to grasp it. But then at the same time, I say, okay, so there is a consciousness, a collective consciousness that exists everywhere. We call it God, universe, whatever we call it. And then we are a kind of a little pieces of, as some people even mention it, like even emanations of that big consciousness, small reflection into this body. And then the collective consciousness needs to connect with the body. So that's where all these collides in a way, right?
Correct.
Because the collective consciousness needs to be connected to this body that has its own physiological and biological aspects and defenses, and the psyche connects these two together maybe. Can you help me a little bit better to connect this, that how the body connects to the psyche based on all that you're telling us?
In our work, we called the collective consciousness the field of energy, where everything we've ever known of, we're able to access it, and anything that we've ever innovated, it already exists in the field. We're just accessing it.
Yeah.
So the first step is first connecting with ourselves. So connecting with the consciousness of our body. And in the work that I do, what I see is that once we create this connection from our consciousness of the mind into the consciousness of the body, then we are able to be aware of our connection to the collective, because I believe that we're always connected to the collective consciousness. I mean, when something happens in the world, we always feel it. We may not be aware of it, but there is a sensation, the feeling, our musculoskeletal system feels it.
That it shows itself in the body, what
It
you're
shows
saying.
itself
So
in the body.
that's what is very interesting.
Exactly.
You're not saying only unconsciously we connect to it, but it's going to impact our body.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So because the body already has its innate intelligence. So we have something that we say, this is the chiropractic philosophy that I fell in love with. The body has something called the innate intelligence. The innate intelligence is what takes you from an egg and a sperm into a trillion cell organism that we are. We don't have to think about it. Each cell already has this innate intelligence that it's functioning. So I believe that the work that we do as doctors of chiropractic, or those of us that work with the body, is to connect the consciousness of the mind to the innate intelligence of the body. And then that innate intelligence is connected to the collective already, because what is happening in the environment, in the collective, is already impacting the innate intelligence. The toxicity in our environment, the pollution in the environment, the food that it's already impacting the innate.
Yes.
Our job is to connect to the innate so that we can see what it is that we need and how do we need to adapt, and how much resilience and stamina do we need to create inside of us to be able to, thrive despite what is happening in the collective and despite what is happening in the environment.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. It's very interesting what you're saying. Please continue. I'm fascinated.
So that day where I saw it in the book, Everything We Need to Know to Feel Good, I gave a call to a doctor in Laguna Hills that does network. And he answers the phone and he says, come in. So I go in, and it's a room filled with people. Mm-hmm. So this work is done in group. And I go into this room, someone is crying, someone is moaning, someone is moving. And I just felt at home. Uh-huh. And right away, I'm getting started. I'm already, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm already like looking, feeling, touching. He's just so open. He's so, Dr. Michael Whalen, he's in Laguna Hills, that he allows me to be in that room. And after, I just stay with the full day with him. And he looks at me at the end of the day. He said, you want to work here? And I said, yes. And he said, you're hired. And he says, there's a lot of people that have come in this room that want to do this work, but not everybody could do this work, and not everybody could hold space in a room of energetics, of crying, of moaning, of laughing, of all this different range of emotions that people are expressing. And yet you stayed the whole time and you were thriving. And I said, it just feels natural. It feels like, I was called to it. So truly, even becoming a network spinal practitioner was something that it called me into it.
I have a question, Doc, here. So while the person is going through this process, as you're touching them and you're observing them, are there any conversations with that person? Are there any interventions being done beside the touching, or you allow the person and you trust the system to realign itself?
Exactly. So obviously we do an evaluation. My own initial process is 90 minutes that I get to talk to you, understand your body. I look at your blood work. If I either order a stool test or I look at if there was anything done. So for me, it's really important that I understand your chemistry, so that I know what's going on with your hormones and in your body, but I also understand your body, your history, your consciousness. But when you're starting the work, you're not supposed to really talk with the person, because you're trusting that you are connecting with the innate, and the innate is supposed to do the work. So for some people, you're just going layer by layer. And the first thing that we're trying to create is something called the respiratory wave. Mm-hmm. Because if you've watched my videos, you're seeing that there is a wave going through the spine.
Yes.
That it's being released. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that we want to create is a respiratory wave, teaching the body and the system and the person that you can take a really, really deep breath. That you can actually feel this breath and feel your sensations of your spine and your vertebrae. And the goal is for the vertebrae to go into flexion extension, so forward and backward, and also lateral bending. Mm-hmm. So we're creating this small movement within the spine through the breath. And maybe for somebody that is coming and they have a lot of defense physiology and they have a lot of traumas in their body, the first thing that we have to do is just focusing on how do we create this breath? Mm-hmm. How do we create a sense of connection with different parts of your body? Because your lungs They're big enough. They go from the almost from the top of your shoulders all the way down, to almost close to your low back. This is not anatomically, but I'm just giving you an approximation to just connect with this capacity of your lung, and then connecting with your body and connecting with where are you holding pain, where are you holding tension, where are you holding ease. And what's different with network is that most practitioners, they go into the site of pain. Let me just get in your pain. Let me massage out your pain. Versus with network is about where can I find connection and peace and space? And where can I expand this memory of peace and connection into the rest of the body?
Okay. A question comes to mind. So the individual who goes through this process, and I've, by the way, seen most of your videos and I love them, it's great. And on your Instagram page, and I see that you do it at times individually or in a group setting, which is fantastic. But then the question is, if the person is doing this and everything is happening like in innate way that the body readjusts itself, fine-tunes itself, so there is no, if let's say, if a lot of this happened, my psychologist mind is just having these questions. I hope you don't mind. So if there was trauma in my childhood or in our background, we went through a lot of trauma and immigration and everything. So if the trauma caused this, issues in my body, and I'm realigning myself without really processing the original trauma, and my understanding is, are we doing anything about it, or isn't it possible that the whole thing comes back again because we are realigning, but we are not really addressing the trauma, the psychological aspects of the trauma? What about that? Wouldn't it resurface again?
Most people that work with me are already working with a therapist. And for most people who come to me, I'm their last resort. It's because they've done everything else and most of the things didn't work. But in the cases like that, I'm always asking them if they are already working, because, within their evaluation, I'm finding out that, what they're doing. Either I'm referring or they're already working with someone. But let's just go through this example. So let's say you're working with somebody who's really depressed. Are you able to tell from their posture that they're very depressed?
Yes.
Okay. So if the posture changes and now they're in a completely different state, their shoulders are wide, their neck is back, they're standing taller, that already creates a change in the way that they're perceiving their trauma. Because part of the trauma is our perception about the trauma. One person could have a trauma and be completely traumatized by it and have PTSD.
Yes.
One person could experience trauma and be completely building stamina and adaptation for it.
Absolutely.
And they actually see their traumas as gifts. And I believe that the way you hold your body can create a difference in the perception of that trauma. So I feel that if I'm creating a space in your body where you're coming into this empowered state of holding yourself, holding your muscles, holding your spine, then your perception is shifting in a way that you're going to see that trauma as a gift and as a blessing and as a lesson, rather than shifting into this state of mind of seeing it in an anxiety. So in a way, yes, they're dealing with their trauma, but not in a sense that we're talking about it, in a sense that they're just feeling more empowered about it, because their structure is shifting and changing and releasing. So they're just naturally going into the state of empowerment.
So it's then, what I understand is that it's not necessarily a conscious process. It could be a subconscious or totally unconscious process that the person starts feeling different. And what you're proposing is that by feeling different now, in a way, I'm addressing my past trauma. So I don't have to necessarily go through processing it and consciously processing it. Because the difference, what I'm hearing that is fascinating, is that in our field, what we believe is that your conscious mind, your ego, needs to be processing and coming to terms with whatever happened, right? Because as you said, a lot of people are seeing themselves as victims, right? And some people see events of the past as challenges that allowed them to grow, right? So then what you're saying is that so the person does not necessarily need to consciously grasp what happened and how it impacted him or her. They only need to process it and feel realigned and feel good about themselves now, and that will take care of whatever happened in the past.
Yeah, so in a sense, we're addressing the subconscious that we believe in our work is within the body. And then once the body realigns itself, it changes their perception. And because it changes their perception about what has happened in the past, it's not that they don't recognize that they have traumas or they don't ever address it. It's just that they they start to look at their traumas and their past from an empowered state. So sometimes they say that, I'm seeing a therapist about it, but during that process is happening in a very empowered way.
Yeah.
And sometimes they say, I've never shared this with you. We've been going through 10 visits and I've had a drug problem that now I don't have a drug problem. And it's because I understood that I was using the drug as a self-soothing mechanism. And now I have such adaptability and resilience in my system that I was able to overcome it, and I was able to overcome the traumas around it. So sometimes they are able to dissolve it within themselves, and they talk about that. A lot of the things, they've done a lot of surveys with this work, that people have a spontaneous remission of diseases, or they have a spontaneous change in their habits where they're able to overcome smoking, drinking, alcohol, drugs. I've actually had a patient that would drive every week from Arizona to my office because he said the first session got him out of drinking alcohol.
Fantastic.
So, I truly believe that when we tap into that empowered state, and when we tap into this altered state of consciousness where we're feeling so connected to ourselves and to divine, then things happen spontaneously and in such a progression where we don't necessarily need to talk about every trauma that we've had, and we come into terms with it through our body.
We see it from a different perspective. That is fantastic. The point is, throughout history, even back to our own culture, from Iranian culture, and we have a lot of spiritual circles and groups, even Sufism and others. The thing is that those approaches, they really not only don't value the body, they actually fight it in a sense. They even try to wear clothing that is, harsh on the body. So they try to separate themselves from body and identify with divine because they see a separation. But what you're talking about today, and it's really interesting, is that you're saying by, in a sense, cleansing, realigning my body, I can really connect with the divine. And this way, not only I am more spiritual, but I'm healthier.
True.
In my body.
I feel that with Sufism, they actually connected with their body in order to connect to divine, because what I see is a lot of dancing and this spinning that happened as a result of going into the state of spinning through their body. They were able to actually connect with the divine. So I feel that, even though that what you're saying is true, but
there are different sects of Sufism. The whirling dervishes are one sect of Sufism. There are so many different sects, and some of them really put body under really difficult situations, like not eating more than just one almond a day, just sitting still, not talking, not walking, wearing clothes that is for 40 days at least, that is kind of scratching the body. So there are different sects, yes, but whirling dervishes come more because Rumi was a lot advanced for his time. And he had to really present his ideas in a way that they don't kill him at the time. He didn't want to go so far away from Islam and those religious, people. So he tried to package it in a way that, people don't go after him. But they are really modern ways. In whirling dervishes approach is different than, maybe more traditional Sufis approach that we see, Abu Sa'id Abul Khair and the others. They were really harsh.
Well, thank you for educating me.
No, this is something that we're sharing.
But yeah, I truly believe that in order for us to really tap into our divinity or our mystical genius, we have to do it through our body.
That's beautiful. I really like it. And that's what I think it's important, because I know for a fact a lot of people that, consider themselves as spiritual, they do not necessarily subscribe to paying attention too much to the body. And we talk to them, we see them, right? But what you're proposing is that bringing these two together in such a beautiful way that helps not only the body and mind, but psyche and the soul. Absolutely. In a sense.
Yeah. When people start to work with me, I always tell them, because sometimes people refer to my space as a spa because there's so many different rooms and so many different things, and I always say this is not a spa. This is a place that we build stamina for the soul. Yeah. And if you're not ready, you're not ready. And sometimes I tell people, you're not ready for this work. It goes really deep, and you have to be willing to be deep. This is not a place where, yes, we have services that you can come for relaxation, but if you're working with me, you're ready to go deep.
It's a soul spa.
Yeah.
So It's very interesting. So the way I'm hearing is that if I'm understanding you correctly, is that since you started your work in the field, it seems that your spirituality has also expanded.
Yes, because I think when I'm working with people, especially when I'm working with groups, I have to be connected to something way greater than myself. And sometimes people see me and they're like, "Oh my God, I wish I was, your family member or your kid," because they think who I am at the office is the same person I'm at home, but I'm not. And that's because I'm connected deeply with something much greater than myself when I'm working with people. And then at home, I struggle just like everybody else.
So have you noticed any difference if you do this, your practice in group or in individual sessions?
Yes, the group is much faster because the intention of each person being in the group enhances the work. There was a person, I forget his name, but he was doing a study, or he was innovating a system to measure the electromagnetic field. And the way that he was able to measure the electromagnetic field with his device was that when he went to mass or when he went to church and there was a lot of people in the group that they were praying, all of a sudden he would notice a huge shift in the electromagnetic field of his body. So I believe that that's what happens in the group sessions. The energy and the electromagnetic field within the room is so much stronger, and as a result, people heal faster. Also, I think there is this sense of safety that happens when we hear somebody else crying or somebody else breathing. It's almost our mirror neurons
Yes.
that start to like duplicate that. There is that, but there's also, there are people that they say, "Oh, I'm sensitive, and I don't want to pick up other people's energy." And this is what I always say to people that say, I don't want the bad eye, or I don't want to pick up someone's negative energy." And I always say there are three different energetic states. There is poor energy state, that's where we're getting sick and where we're impacted by everything and everyone. There is a neutral state of energy that, again, who we're around is going to change that energetic state. And then there is a super rich or rich energetic state. And when you're in that energetic state, everybody upgrades to your level of energy. And when we're doing this working group, I always tell them, first of all, I have to be that super rich energetic state in order to guide everybody in the sessions. But also our goal is to get you out of poor state into neutral and from neutral to rich. And once you're in that state of resilience and adaptability, you don't pick up anyone else's energy. If anything, they are able to entrain to your high energetic
To the
state.
higher level.
So in the beginning, we do start with private sessions because some people truly don't have the stamina within their nervous system to be in a group. They get more dysregulated. But our goal is to always build you up to the state where you can be in a group session, because it's building resilience, that you learn that you can still work on your own body and connect to your own body and be in that state that you need to be in order to heal, but also be in a group and hear somebody else crying and laughing.
And do it out there in real life,
And
right?
do it out there in real life, because you're here to build resilience within your nervous system. You're here because you want to create more adaptability within your nervous system. So as a result, you have to also experience the healing in a group state. And for most people, they might, in the beginning, they may have challenges around it because they have a hard time focusing. But at some point, they do see the gift in being in the group, because they see that, we do heal together. It's a collective work.
That's beautiful. So does it in any way impact you as you're doing this, because you're working in a group? I want to know, are there times that maybe you feel that you're being impacted by what you're doing in either positive or negative way?
I'm always being impacted because I have to tune into everyone else's energy in order to know what they need, where I need to go, what they need to hear, or what they not, if I need to speak to them after or not to speak after. I always have to tune in, and it does impact me. I'm a very empathetic person, but I have learned how to have rituals around before work and after work to kind of cleanse myself and be able to separate who I am when I'm in the office versus who I am at home, especially because I have two little kids. So, I have my rituals to be able to separate and like kind of know that where is my energy, where is everybody else's energy, and then pick, when my energy gets scattered, bring them back into my system and vice versa.
And are there any age limitations for what you're doing?
There is no age limitations. I have a lot of kids under care, especially because, as you see, we have a huge increase in the neurodivergent things that are
Population,
happening with
yeah.
kids. But and what I love to do is work with families. So
The whole family
the whole
in one
family in
session?
the room.
Wow.
A lot of times parents bring their kids and they say, my kid needs this or my kid needs that. But I always tell them, I have to start with you. I can't really help your kid's nervous system unless your nervous system is aligned and your nervous system is resilient, because kids are an extension of our nervous system. You can put a mask on and pretend that you're not sad and pretend that you're not feeling depressed or anxious, but your kids will always feel your energy. And they actually express the energy that we suppress. I noticed this with my son. If I'm feeling something, I'm feeling anxious, there is a disagreement between me and my husband, I can see Rumi expressing that very thing that I'm suppressing within myself. So it has made my work better, because I feel like I constantly need to be able to process fast and build this stamina within myself so that I can be an extension that when he expresses, and an expression that I feel comfortable being around.
And this is fantastic and fascinating. And I wanted to see if one of the videos you had actually on Instagram I really liked was about that 7 minutes practice you talk about if you really want something, and how to maybe give yourself some time. And I want people to go and watch for themselves. I don't want to give it, that's fantastic. But I was hoping that would you be able to give our listeners a practice, something that they can, when they listen to this, that they can do on their own that would help them even at a small level?
The greatest practice is connecting with your body. The greatest practice is being aware of what you're feeling inside your body. So I think one of the best things that we can do on a daily basis is ask ourselves, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? What am I feeling? What do I need? Do I need water? Do I need rest? Do I need pause? And I also feel like we're in a society that it's just so fast paced. And we're always going from one thing to another thing. We're eating our foods fast. We're checking our emails fast. We wake up and we start checking our emails and checking our phone. So take more pauses and ask your body, what do you need? Because your body will tell you. Your body gives you signals. When you have signals of pain, it's the way your body is communicating with you about what it is that you need. So you can sit with it. Instead of suppressing your feelings, tap into your feelings, process your feelings, be with your feelings. They're all signals. So I would say one of the greatest practices, a practice where you breathe into 3 different body parts. One of them is you put your 2 hands together like this, and you're putting it on your belly button, and then you're bringing your breath as far as you can in your belly button, and you're pretending as if you have a balloon in your belly, and you're bringing your breath there. So you're inhaling with your nose and then exhaling with your mouth, and you're exhaling all the way out so that you can feel the range in the abdominal area. You do a few breaths there, and you're just tapping into, how much breath do I have here? How comfortable is it to breathe here? How much space is in here? What am I feeling here? And then you go into the solar plexus, the place where your ribs meet in the sternum in the middle, and you put your hands there, and you do a few breaths in there, and you're expanding as far as you can, and you're exhaling all the way out, and you're paying attention to your range. You're paying attention to the space. You're paying attention to your feelings there. And then you go higher in your chest, in the heart center, and you're taking a few deep breaths there, and you're expanding again as far as you can, releasing as much as you can. And you're just noticing. You're noticing your breath. You're noticing what you're feeling, what you're sensing, how much expansion is there. And then ask yourself, where do I feel most connected? Where do I feel I have the most amount of breath? Where do I feel most disconnected? And then go into the area of connection, do 5 breaths there, and then build a bridge as if the memory is getting transferred from that area where you have connection and expansion and a space to the area with least amount of connection, with least amount of expansion. And you'll notice that there's going to be a change. As if the body part that felt most disconnected, it starts to feel connection with that area that felt most connected.
Okay, and this is an easy practice that everybody can do it, and it's a very mindful practice. The body scan, usually what we also do something like that is just asking the person to do like a body scan. Just pay attention, scanning the body from the head to toes and see if there are any tensions anywhere and paying attention. But this is very interesting. So the way people need to do this, what I'm hearing from you, is that we need to be slowing down a little bit, paying more attention to our bodies, and in a calmer way, right? Not in a rushed way, because I see some people, they try to attend to the body, but they just go like rushing into the gym, rushing out, and I'm just trying to build muscles. And maybe what you're proposing is more like mindful attention to the body,
Yes.
not trying to sculpt it in a way that is pleasing and is approved by society, but it's just listening to it and
Yes.
being more compassionate towards your own body. The way you said you touch your body, different parts, is more like a sign I'm just giving love and attention to my body, not just judging it. Because in our field, we have a lot of youngsters here that they have the body dysmorphia.
Right.
And they come in, they look absolutely fine, but they hate their body and they try to sculpt it in a way that the society is, demanding. And, for a while back in my time, I was, a photographer for several years, and we were doing commercial and fashion photography. There was a time that, anorexia was very popular in models, and there were a couple of good documentaries made for it because they had to be super skinny in order to get hired. And so fortunately, things have changed, and the society is not after that whole anorexia look. But I still see a lot of youngsters that are suffering from this. And believe it or not, it's the anorexia especially is the illness of United States and the modern world, because we are so driven by what society is approving and disapproving. So is there in any way, would you be able to provide us with some kind of guidance that in this way that you're proposing to be more tuned into your body and accepting it, would that have also some implications in the way we see ourselves?
Absolutely. I feel that befriending our body is the first step in spirituality. So just connecting with our body and getting the signals and knowing that our body has an innate wisdom that I feel, because of how external our society is that we've been disconnected to, is one of the most important things. Speaking about body dysmorphia, I've had and have a lot of patients under care with body dysmorphia, and I feel that it's really important to help them befriend with their body, touch their body, feel the different sensations in their body, and understanding your structure, feeling your structure, moving with your body, knowing how you need to move with your body. And then, I also feel that with those people, it's important to look at their chemistry, because I feel that chemistry is also a very important part of getting to know our body, and that's something that needs to get tested. But we can't heal a body if we don't understand the chemistry. So I think, looking with the most detailed things about someone's chemistry is one of the ways that I feel I'm able to help a lot of people, because I think there is the aspect of the nervous system, and then there is the aspect of what's in the blood, and there is the aspect of what's in the gut, and how are they coming together and working together. Because I think that ultimately, there has to be a dance between the two in order for us to achieve that optimal health.
Yes, that's exactly the way that I guess the biopsychosocial aspects when we work with people is that the biology is important, psychology is important, and the social aspect is also impacting us. So the way you said it, if I try to put them all together, if we attend to the body and we connect to the innate wisdom in the body, we not only feel good, but then we are able to carry ourselves in a better way when we are out there in the society. And that way, not only we are not going to get traumatized because we're going to approach the life in a different way, but also we're going to be an agent of change maybe for others, because we're carrying this fine-tuned energy with us into the society.
Absolutely. And we're listening. We're listening to the wisdom from the body. A lot of times we feel that the guidance needs to come from outside, and a lot of times it does. It comes from the people in our life, our mentors, a psychologist, a chiropractor, our doctors. But I also feel that the most important wisdom comes from your body. It's your body communicates with you. You just have to be listening. And I feel like we're not listening. We're listening to everything else, to somebody on Instagram, somebody on Spotify, people outside. But our ability to actually listen to ourselves has diminished over the years.
So listeners should stop right now, stop listening to us and go and listen. No, I'm just kidding. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So ask the question, what am I feeling? What do I need? And the answers will come.
So you're recommending doing this on a daily basis,
On a
right?
daily basis, yeah.
Maybe once in the morning,
I
once
do
at
it a
night.
few times a day, especially when I'm feeling like I'm going fast. Like something, all of a sudden I catch myself, and sometimes I have reminders on my phone, pause. And then when I'm pausing, I first ask, what do I need? And it could be a glass of water, or it could be that I need to eat, or it could be that I need to just take 2 minutes and just take 3 deep breaths, especially when my toddler is having a tantrum. In the moment, I ask myself, what do I need? And sometimes all I need is 1 minute or 30 seconds to take really deep breaths and come into my body, come into a place of groundedness and be able to respond or be able to tune into him. Because if we're not tuned into ourselves, it's very hard to tune into other people.
Yes, absolutely. And do you recommend doing this like in a family setting when they're at home? Maybe would be a fun thing to do.
Yes, absolutely. Too. So because then everybody else's energy gets connected and everybody can just tap into a new sense of connection and a new sense of frequency between them that is almost coherent so that they can entrain into each other's energy, and as a result they're going to receive better results. And I'm sure you've seen this with couples, because if couples, they both can be saying the same thing sometimes, but because they are in different states of mind and different frequencies, as if they're just in different radio stations, they're not understanding each other. But when you come into this place of putting your hand in your husband's heart and he puts his hand on your heart and you're just breathing for 5 minutes, and then you go back to your conversation, all of a sudden you may realize that, oh, there's a lot of common ground here versus there was a lot of disagreement before.
Yes.
And just that concept of coming into connection, coming into the breath, can just help us understand each other better.
All of this coming from you as with your background in neuroscience and science as a practitioner, as a doctor of chiropractic, is really important, because I think people need to hear this, because a lot of times there are people out there without enough credentials, without enough background, proposing things that could be damaging, or even if they're saying the same thing, might not get the same credit or approval. But I'm really happy that you're discussing this, and because again, as you mentioned yourself about your background, and what you're saying has a lot of practical, aspects to it that we can utilize it in our daily lives. And it's so promising, hearing this from you, reconnecting to the body, even as you were saying, just touching my body. And I feel, to be totally honest, that I feel even more settled in my body now after this conversation we had together. Before, maybe I was a little bit tense that, okay, are we going to make it on time? Are we going to do the recording? Is everything working? All the light, camera setting, right? But as I was listening to you and you were explaining, and by this touching, and I think it was a very good grounding experience for myself, sitting here and listening and learning. So I really appreciate it, and I hope in future we can have you more often here, because I know you do a lot more than just this. As you mentioned, your line of work is more comprehensive.
Yes, after chiropractic school, during chiropractic school, and after, I went and I studied network spinal as well as functional medicine, because I really believe that, the work with the body has to be holistic. We are not just one system, we're many systems interconnected. So I've done a lot of different things, and we can discuss it later. But I do want to mention one last thing that I think it's really important for our listeners and for us. They did a study where they looked at what increases your electromagnetic field the most. Do you know what feeling that is?
Love?
No. It's authenticity. When we are the most authentic version of ourselves, we have the most capacity for healing. And I want to mention this because I feel that within our culture, and probably many cultures, when we are not feeling well, when we're sick, when we have cancer, when somebody else in our family has cancer, there's a lot of hush, hush, don't tell anybody. And I just want to put it out there that it's really important for us to be authentic and to be honest about what we're feeling. And being in that state is a true state of connection with ourselves, but also connection with others, because we don't heal in isolation.
Thank you for saying that. I wish you were there. Last week, actually, I had a seminar for relationship, and I had a kind of a long talk about authenticity, how important it is, and maybe how at times it's being misperceived, because it has layers and layers. Because there are times that people, in the name of being authentic to self, are being selfish and not truly authentic. And I'm going to have actually an episode with a dear friend of mine who's in Australia, talking about pure will and the true authenticity, and how at times we think it's easy, whatever comes to mind is being authentic to myself. But the layers of ego and personal unconscious, collective unconscious, and the way you said it, the body, it has layers and layers. So maybe it's the key. I agree with you. What I'm saying is that I totally agree with what you're saying, but reaching to that point requires a lot of work
Yes.
to get there, to make sure that we are really listening to true, pure will and not desires, in a sense, greed. A lot of things could present themselves as being true will and pure will. But authenticity is connecting to that pure will inside. And I think it really deserves a whole episode talking about that. And now that I'm hearing you're saying, I see that as synchronistic, because last night I was communicating with my friend in Australia that when are we going to connect and record that episode about pure will. And now you're saying that it's like you're the messenger. Now you're saying that, okay, we need to talk about this.
Yeah, I definitely feel that it's a foundation for healing, to feel authentic within ourselves and to be comfortable in our skin and in our body and being authentic. So I'm glad you're doing an episode so our listeners can listen to the next one and enjoy that one.
Absolutely. So then the last thing, just a question popped into my mind. Then when you see people with some chronic illnesses,
Yes.
and really that they're suffering, right? Do you see any connection between the disconnection between mind and body, that or not fine-tuning body being cause of some of those illnesses?
Absolutely. There is anything that becomes physical, at its origin, it was something emotional or energetic. So when we are addressing the physical things, of course, it's important, to run the right blood markers and the stool test and do the right imaging and put everything together. But as we work, it's also important to understand where was the origin from. So I'm going to give you a interesting story. I had a dear friend pass from cancer on Wednesday.
This past Wednesday?
This past Wednesday.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
And we were talking with a close friend. Unfortunately, this dear friend, he became very close to me because we started working together just this past few months. It was a little bit late when he came to me, but one of his close friends of 15 years, she asked me, she said, where do you think this cancer started? When do you think that he could have prevented it? And I said, he was taking care of his sister for a few years. She also died of cancer. And I said, I feel like it started when he was taking care of his sister.
Mm.
And she said, I can't believe you're saying this, because he constantly said, I wish I had cancer. And I tell you this story because I truly believe that if we put seeds into our head about things, it can grow into consciousness. And I want to invite anybody who's listening to this, maybe they have a family member who has cancer, maybe themselves are struggling with a chronic illness. There is two ways in front of you. You can either choose to be disempowered and keep asking questions about why did this happen to me, or you can ask the question, this happened for me, how can I be empowered through it? And instead of growing the consciousness of I have cancer, I have this disease, and identifying yourself with this disease, you can see it as a stepping stone for your next evolution in this life or in the next life. And about how can you empower yourself now? Because one of the sweet things about my friend who had cancer is that he told me cancer is one of the greatest things that has ever happened to me, because I did not experience the joy of life that I experience now when I didn't have cancer. Now I enjoy the steam that comes from the tea. Mm-hmm. Now I enjoy when the light of the sun is kissing my face.
Wow, yeah.
And anytime now that I'm in front of the sun, I think of Sina, and may he rest in peace. And so going back into the chronic illness, I feel that, the consciousness that we have around our disease is really important, but also how are we going to develop it and how are we going to change and shift our perception about our disease is going to be very important into empowering ourselves and knowing that we are the agents, we are the ultimate healer inside of us that can create the change within the disease that we're experiencing.
Yeah, actually, what you said, it's really painful at the same time. I'm sorry for the loss. And then at the same time, I'm sure that Sina, as you mentioned, was able to connect to a different level of consciousness towards the end of his life. And a lot of authors have written about it. Paulo Coelho, probably is a famous author, has a book the name is Veronica Decides to Die. And then when life starts looking different and how things, change for her, when she actually decides to kill herself, which she doesn't at the end. But what you said, also saw a video, was very interesting. Was a scientist was talking. It was actually, a doctor was saying that there was a case, a patient, that he developed cancer, severe cancer, when they brought him to him. And there was, at the time, a medication that just came out. And he said that, oncologist said that, I tried the medication and the person really believed this medication is going to work. And then he really was amazing. The next couple of days, we saw the whole cancer is gone. And it was amazing. We felt, wow, this medication is amazing. Then there was a study that a month later came out and said the medication doesn't work at all. He said right after the person read that article, his cancer came back. And the doctor was saying that I realized that this is like, as they call it, placebo effect, is actually believing in something. He said, so I called him back to my office and I said, I have a brand new medication. It's just in a trial, but I know it's going to help you. And I injected him with saline. And he said the next day his cancer was gone again because he believed in it. And then he said that he was good until several years later he read something else and start believing in having cancer again. He got cancer and then eventually died. But this was exactly another report of an oncologist was saying that, there are cases like that. The placebo effect actually is there, and it's the power of our belief. And if we believe in something, it's going to materialize itself in our body or in our life.
Absolutely. And I always ask people, like, do you think you have the consciousness of healing? And, they usually don't know what that means, but it's basically, do you believe that you can heal? Do you believe that you have powers within yourself that are healing? Do you believe that you have to rely on me or a person or a doctor, or do you believe that you have to rely on yourself? And once you can put those seeds that you are the person that's going to do the healing, and I'm just a guide, then usually they are very empowered and they usually succeed in their healing.
Well, I'm thankful for your time. And would you please let us know, and the people that are interested and hopefully living close by, that how they can find out more about you and learn more about what you're doing?
You can Google me on Google for Rasta Wellness. I'm the founder of Rasta Wellness. We have a few practitioners there. We have different types of modalities and treatments. My website is drtararasta.com, and our phone number is 714-679-8608. And I do provide a free phone consultation for everyone because I truly believe that the person that is coming to the practice has to be the right fit and they have to be ready for the kind of healing that we offer. So if you're interested and you want to talk with me, it'll be a pleasure.
Thank you so much for being here. I learned a lot and I'm sure everybody really enjoyed it. Hopefully we get to have you come back here for more episodes.
Thank you, Dr. Bernos.
Thank you. As we close, I want to thank Dr. Tara Rasta for guiding us through a deeper understanding of healing. Her work with Network Spinal reminds us that transformation is not a matter of force, but of resonance, releasing the old patterns stored in the spine so that the energy can rise, connect, and flow into the new possibilities. Today, we touched on how science, spirituality, and soul converge when we allow ourselves to listen to the wisdom of the body and its networks of connection. May this conversation serve as an invitation to each of us to awaken what is whole within, align with our true purpose, and step into the collective space of Astana with renewed vitality and awareness.